pessoal, tudo bem com vocês? E sejam bem-vindos a mais um Lendo em Inglês com o livro The Star Shepherd. Sim, nós estamos lendo um livro aqui juntos no canal para que vocês possam treinar a leitura de inglês de vocês, né? Para quem não sabe, quem é novo aqui no canal, eu sou professora de inglês. E eu tô fazendo esse projeto aqui. Eu comecei com alguns textos soltos, né? Cada vídeo um texto, mas aí eu achei que, como o canal é sobre livros, eu achei que ia ser bem mais interessante a gente ler um livro juntos. Então eu peguei esse livro aqui, que é pra quem tá aí a partir do intermediário. Ele tem capítulos bem curtos e a gente tá lendo junto. Eu sempre deixo a legenda aqui embaixo pra você ir acompanhando. E o interessante é que depois que você escute, né? Que você veja o vídeo escutando e acompanhando as legendas a primeira vez, que você volte, mute o vídeo, né? Tire o som para você conseguir ir lendo as legendas. Se você quiser adquirir o livro, o link para compra desse livro vai estar aqui na descrição, mas como ele é um livro internacional, né? É um livro em inglês, ele é um pouco mais caro para comprar aí do Brasil, mas quem puder comprar ia ser uma ótima aquisição para vocês treinarem, tá? Mas lembrando que esse livro aqui é um livro para quem ainda tá, assim, do intermediário para cima, já dá para começar a ler. Então, hoje nós estamos no capítulo 14, né? A gente vai começar aqui o chapter 14. Se você tá chegando aqui agora, volta lá nessa playlist, né, do Lendo em Inglês e acha o capítulo 1 para você conseguir aí se encontrar na história, não chegar aqui perdido. E hoje a gente vai descobrir o que vai acontecer com o Cairo na reunião lá do conselho dos Star Shepherds, que ele foi representando o pai dele, porque, né, o pai dele saiu para poder descobrir o que estava acontecendo com as estrelas, que estavam caindo aos montes, e ele acabou ficando sozinho lá na torre de vigia, né, das estrelas, que ele e o pai dele eram responsáveis. Então hoje a gente vai descobrir o que vai acontecer com ele lá no conselho. Então nós vamos ler juntos aqui, ok? Chapter 14. By the time Carol and Cypher reached the top of the cliff and the entrance to the council's magnificent watchtower, they were exhausted. Carol could barely lift the brass knocker on the door, but somehow he managed. The sound reverberated through his bones. He wished to sleep, but nervous energy filled him from the tip of his ears down to his toes. The heavy wooden door creaked open, and an imposing man with a shaved head and close-cut beard stood in their path. His arms were more tanned than those of the sailors Cairo had seen occasionally in Dren, and he folded them as he looked at Cairo expectantly. The boy's mouth hung open. He wasn't sure what he had expected the other Star Shepherds to be like, but it wasn't this. Except the intimidating part, of course. That much he had gathered from the note that had been pinned to his door. Hello? Carol stammered. I'm here for the Star Shepherd Council meeting. The man raised an eyebrow. Aren't you a little young? Carol's cheeks flamed. No, sir. My father and I man our watchtower together. And where is your father? Good question. He wasn't able to make it. The man considered Carol for a moment longer, his eyes roving over the dirty dog at his side. Cypher sat up straight, tail wagging on his best behavior. All right, the man said, moving aside to let Carol enter. Where is your assigned region? He picked up a clipboard from the nearby table. Dren, sir. Our watchtower is just outside the village of Dren. The man's brows knit together, then his dark eyes widened. Dren, huh? No wonder your father is unable to make it to the meeting. It's a shame. Carol hung his head, but heat burned inside him. I'm Jacques, the man said, holding out a hand for Carol to shake. Since I know you're not cheering, what's your name for registry? Carol shook the man's hand. My name is Carol. Well, Carol, keep your chin up. Tell the truth about your father, and the council may be persuaded to be lenient. The knot in his stomach loosened. Perhaps Jacques wasn't so bad after all. "Thank you, sir." "Just Jacques, please." "Now, come along. The council is ready. A few more stragglers might show up, but you may as well go in and get it over with." Jacques ushered Carol and Cypher through a hall that wound around the watchtower, slowly working its way into the bedrock of the cliff. Doors to each level dotted the sides of the hall, and Carol imagined the rooms beyond must be full of finery and instruments to send the stars back where they belonged in the sky. Along the walls of the hall were paintings and plaques. The paintings were night scenes featuring magnificent watchtowers. The titles like The Tower of Peliana and The Spire of Spinto and The Keep of Irgo were engraved on the elegant frames. The watchtowers depicted in the paintings were all finely crafted, and over the roofs hung a sky of sparkling stars. Between the paintings hung plaques with names of star shepherds, the dates they'd kept their watch, and the number of stars they'd rescued over the course of their careers. Cairo's heart climbed into his throat. His father must have seen this hall and these plaques many times. No doubt he wished to find his own name among them someday. Cairo's mouth went dry. If he wasn't successful with the council, his father never would. He tried not to look, but he couldn't help watching the names go by. Suddenly, he stopped and placed his hand on the wall next to one particular plaque, Jacques and Yana of the Rumville Watchtower. Those were his grandparents' names. They had passed away when he was very young, and they had lived in a tower by Rumville, the village where Cairo was born. "Someone you know?" Jacques asked. Cairo dropped his hand to his side. "I think those are my grandparents." "I believe it. There are many generations in these walls." The longer they walked, the sleeker Cairo's palms grew. Would his name ever be on one of those plaques? Did he want it to be? He went over the words he needed to say to the council and hoped he'd remember them all when he was in a room full of people staring down at him. He swallowed hard and shoved his hand into his pockets. Jacques stopped before a large oaken door, but he paused before pulling the latch. "You might want to leave your dog here." Cairo bent down to Cypher. "Be a good boy and wait out here for me. Stay." He scratched between the dog's ears, and though Cypher whined when Cairo stood up, he remained seated. "Ready?" Jacques asked. "As I'll ever be," Cairo said. Jacques laughed. "Good luck. There are those present who know your father and respect him. Don't forget that." Cairo stared in surprise, but Jacques didn't notice as he opened the door. The hall was packed wall to wall and level over level with men and women from many different walks of life, representing regions all over the world. A platform stood in the center of the circular room with a chair that could rise and fall to address different levels of the tall hall. It was descending at the moment, carrying a thin man with a gray beard and sharp green eyes who addressed the crowd. "That's Cadmus, the leader of the council," Jacques whispered. Then he nudged Carlos forward. Cadmus finished his introductory speech and alighted on the main floor. He took in Cairo's appearance with a look of distance. "Who are you?" he asked. Jacques stepped forward. "This is Cairo of the Dren Watchtower. He's here on behalf of his father Tyrion." Cadmus scowled and folded his hands in front of his midnight blue robes. Caro noticed that everyone, even Dacrys, wore the same robes. He wanted to shrink into the floor. Was there a Star Shepherd dress code? His father had never told him about it, like so many other things. "Where is your father, Caro?" Cadmus asked, and the room around them began to buzz. Why didn't he come on his own? Caro took a deep breath. "He's not at home at present. You mean he abandoned his post? The rumors we've been hearing out of Dren are true?" Cadmus' eyes glinted. "He did not abandon anything. Then why is he not here?" Cadmus stepped closer to Caro. "He is the only approved Star Shepherd assigned to watch the skies over Dren. If he's not watching them, then he has abandoned his post." A terrible sort of smile slid over Cadmus' face. "Tyrion is a traitor." A ripple of murmurs flared all the way up in the heights of the tower. The sound that echoed back down to Caro was nearly deafening. "He's not a traitor," Caro shouted. The council grew quiet, and he instantly regretted raising his voice, but there was no help for it now. "Then by all means," Cadmus stretched his hands out, "answer the question. Where is Tyrion?" Heat flashed over Caro's face, and a trickle of sweat trailed down his back. "He came here not long ago to report strange slices in some of the burlap cases. While he was here, he heard other rumors about the Vizsla returning and stars going astray in other sectors." Yes, we know all this. We were here," Cadmus said, gesturing to the council members. "And those reports, as you call them, were shaky at best." Caro took a deep breath. "After he returned, we made an even more frightening discovery. One night, a cluster of stars fell over the Radamak Mountains, which, I might remind you, are forbidden," Cadmus said. "I know, and we were saddened to lose those stars. Later the same night, another cluster fell outside of Dren. We rushed to save them, but when we got there, all we found was empty craters. Someone took the stars, every last one of them. To make matters worse, I can confirm that the Vizsla are indeed back. We've encountered them at least 3 times over the last few weeks. I even destroyed one. They're terrifying. The legends are true. Stars can ward them off when wielded against them, but if they get their hands on a star first, they kill it." Audible gasps rang out. "Impossible," reverberated throughout the hall. Cadmus laughed. "Destroy the Vizsla?" He shook his head. "Do you really expect us to believe that? Your imagination is just as formidable as your father's." "It's the truth, I swear it." A smattering of laughter tricked down above Caro's head, and his face reddened. "Of course you did," Cadmus said. "Please continue your explanation of your father's disappearance." Caro swallowed the sand lining his throat. "After that night, my father knew someone was taking the stars. He went after them, to catch them, to stop them. But that's not all. Since then, I've discovered someone isn't just taking the stars. Someone's cutting them down. See?" He pulled one of the severed hooks left in the craters the night before from his pack. The council went deadly silent. At first, I thought it had to be the Vizsla, but the night I found this, several stars had fallen above our watchtower, and in the mere time it took me to run outside, they were gone, Caro said. A fine tale, to be sure, Cadmus said. But have you anyone to vouch for this story? If you are the only witness to this, how do we know you aren't making it all up out of affection for your father? Cairo's hands squeezed into fists. My father is out there, alone, trying to save the stars because you wouldn't listen to him when he came here the first time. Do you know how many times Tyrion has come to our council meetings filled with false stories and conspiracies? Cadmus huffed. The first few times we took him seriously and investigated, only to have it turn out to be all in his head. You are just like your traitor father. Heat flared over Cairo's cheeks. He had never heard about this before. He barely kept his tongue in check. You have no one to vouch for this story, do you? Cadmus said. A whisper of traitor breathed through the gathered council members until it roared in Cairo's ears. Dacrys placed his hands on Cairo's shoulders, startling him. I believe him. I know Tyrion has tried the council's patience in the past, but this time several of us have seen strange things too, and I've seen the Vizsla myself. They are all too real. If someone is cutting down the stars, we should send people after Tyrion to help him. He's a hero, not a traitor. Cadmus scoffed. A hero? How many stars have died since Tyrion left, boy? Cairo froze. This was the one question he had been dreading. The one thing he had prayed they would not ask. But lying wouldn't help him. Cadmus had the look of a predator that knew its prey was caught. Cairo was willing to bet that the council leader already knew the answer. 15, Cairo whispered. There were 15 I could not save. Our catapult broke down and 15 stars lost for eternity. Cadmus raised his arms and returned to his chair. 15 stars that we swore to protect and that were lost because your father abandoned his post. No, it wasn't his fault, it was mine. I couldn't fix the catapult in time for the first few. Then last night a dozen fell at once, and those were stolen before I could get to them. A likely story, I'm sure. Your catapult has been modified beyond standard specifications by your father, yes? Cairo's heart sunk into his feet. Yes, sir. Well then, I think it is time for a vote. Cadmus pressed a button on the chair, and it shot up to the highest level. Tier 9. How do you judge Tyrion? His voice jangled Cairo's bones. One by one, Cairo saw the specks of their voting petals turn. Every one of them was black. Dacrys squeezed his shoulders. A man who must be the council secretary scurried around below and recorded the vote of each tier, and Cadmus progressed. Tier 8, how do you judge Tyrion? This time there were 2 white voting petals in a sea of black. A small hope flared in Cairo's heart. It was soon dampened by the votes of the next 2 tiers. Then again, a spot in white at the 5th tier, but the last 4 were the same. Black, 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 black. The lone vote with a white petal on the 1st tier was Dacrys, who had remained at Cairo's side. The verdict was clear before Cadmus' chairs even touched the floor. Guilty. Cadmus allowed the secretary to finish counting the votes, though it was only for show. When there was an official tally, Cadmus smiled. The council hereby declares Tyrion of Dren guilty of abandoning his post as Star Shepherd. This is wrong, Cairo cried. He was only trying to help. Dacrys put a hand on Cairo's arm to keep him from doing anything rash. I am afraid you failed to prove that, Cadmus said. I'll find proof. I'll clear his name. I swear I can. Kyle tried unsuccessfully to shake off Jack's strong grip. Until you do, Cadmus said, your territory will be divided up between the shepherds and the neighboring regions. He licked his lips before uttering the words that nearly made Kyle's heart thud to a stop, and you're both banned from touching the stars. Gente do céu, que loucura esse conselho aí, né? Então terminou com o Tyrion sendo culpado de abandonar a torre, mesmo ele, na verdade, não tendo abandonado, não é? Ele saiu para poder ver por que as estrelas estão caindo aos montes, sem uma explicação muito lógica, né? Aparentemente alguém está cortando as estrelas, né, do céu para elas caírem, mas enfim, ainda não está muito explicado como isso está acontecendo. Então é isso aí, pessoal. Espero que vocês tenham gostado da leitura de mais um capítulo aí do The Star Shepherd comigo. Espero que vocês estejam aproveitando aí a leitura em conjunto para poder praticar a leitura de vocês em inglês. Lembrando que ler sempre ajuda a aumentar o vocabulário, porque vocês vão buscar aí o que significam as palavras novas que apareceram aí no capítulo, né? Então isso ajuda a aumentar o vocabulário. Se você lê em voz alta, isso ajuda a melhorar a sua fala, a sua comunicação. Então não deixe de tentar ou ler as legendas em voz alta, ou se você puder comprar o livro, ler o capítulo, né, em voz alta depois de ter escutado como que pronunciam as palavras. Não deixe de treinar o seu inglês, isso ajuda bastante, principalmente a leitura. Espero que vocês tenham aproveitado. Muito obrigada por chegar até aqui. Quem gostou, dá um like, que isso me ajuda bastante. Se inscrevam no canal e a gente vai se falar nos próximos vídeos. Tchau!